You joining us right now or really later when you're watching this. If you want to skip ahead, we're going to let some folks jump in here, so it may not be all that interesting. You're more than welcome. But we've got a pretty good crowd here. So who's the furthest away from us? Colorado? All right.
Yeah.
Where's everybody else coming in from?
I'm in Bluff Park.
Where?
Bluff Park. I'm on top of Shades Mountain right now.
Okay. All right. Well, how's the weather in Colorado?
Colorado, it's sunny and in the 30s today. We're supposed to get some snow this evening.
Oh, wow.
And snow throughout the week. Winter is
so all the schools are canceled?
Everybody's got bread milk.
Yeah,
at home.
you got bread milk for that snowstorm?
My husband's heading out shortly.
All right.
See, they do
all
that
right.
there too.
You've got to do the milk.
Yeah.
You got to do the milk sandwiches.
We're not weird. I mean, it's a thing.
Yes, that is definitely yes. Milk sandwiches all around.
Yeah.
Actually, the
That sounds
milkman
honestly
comes in the morning. So we'll get our milk and eggs from the milkman, but the other things he'll
Wait, you have a milkman?
Yeah.
we do, and we can get
Continue
a
this.
wooden milk box on the front porch.
Where do you live? Denver?
Right in the city of Denver.
Wow.
Denver,
All right.
Colorado.
Well, if they build this rendering plant, I hope you got space. Any good houses out there at a decent rate?
Yeah, that's amazing.
We need a milk. All right, Gadsden. Who's
Yeah,
starting a
we need a
milkman
milkman.
service?
That's wild. I'm very envious. That's very cool.
All right, guys, as y'all are joining us, please let me know how the audio is. This is about the most advanced setup I've dealt with so far. So we'll as we kind of have been through this whole thing, we'll make do. But guys, hit the share button, and let's get a few more folks on. We are talking about all things environmental. And I'm going to go ahead and say the word first. We're going to be talking about some poop. That's just the way it is when you get Justin Overton from Coosa Riverkeepers on here. So, but now we've got a lot to cover. We're going to try and go fairly fast. Let's y'all, if you've got questions, get it in here. We'll try to do the best we can. I'll try and pull them up and interrupt. But as you can see, we have a plethora of people on with us, so I think there's going to be a lot of talking. So I'm going to try and shut my mouth, and we'll get rolling. I'm seeing about 27, 30 folks in here. That's awesome. Thank y'all. Hope everybody's having a good evening. If you haven't watched the council meeting this morning, go back and peruse through some pretty interesting things said. So more on that to come.
Yeah, we'll have some updates on just various things. It's been a busy couple of weeks, and so everybody kind of stay updated on the page. I think we've got several more updates. It's really exciting, though, to have the environmental team here. I know y'all have heard me talk about it, and I know Coosa, Justin, y'all have already, seen what she can do. But it's just really an honor to have such a great, experienced and first-rate environmental team for water and air, take such an active interest in our county and helping us, because this is a very unique area of the law, not an area of expertise that I've spent hardly any time on. So the skill set and the time and the resources that this environmental team has devoted to our area is huge. I cannot express enough how important this team has been to bring these issues to light, both locally, ADEM. Justin, we know, has been fighting this fight for a while, so I know she's been here. And in GASP, we certainly could not have gone to this point with all of the air issues. So I'm really excited for this group to kind of see everybody together all at one time and kind of get an understanding of who's doing what and the expertise that they're bringing, just the amazing work that they're doing for us here. So it's pretty exciting.
Well, then why don't we go around the Brady Bunch boxes here and introduce yourselves. We'll start with you, Justin, and just obviously most folks in our crowd, and especially the folks that are watching from the Coosa Riverkeeper Facebook page, know who you are. But give us a quick intro, and then we'll go around the room.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm Justin Overton. I'm the executive director and staff riverkeeper at Coosa Riverkeeper, and very proud to have so many friends and allies and members in this group, whether that be the opposition group or through Coosa Riverkeeper. And really excited for those of you that are not familiar with GASP. The 3 other people that are on this call have been moving mountains to stop this rendering plant. So I'm really excited for y'all to get to learn about the importance of GASP and what they do, and hopefully go support them. So if you're not a member of GASP, go support GASP. So I'll pass the buck. It's back to you, Michael.
All right, who's next?
Wildman.
Michael, you want to go next?
Sure, I'm happy to go next. Hey, I'm Michael Hansen. I'm the executive director of GASP. We're an air quality organization based in Birmingham. We work all over the state, though, wherever our members are and wherever our members ask us to be. And so we're happy to be here, always happy to work with Justin and Coosa Riverkeeper and our riverkeepers across the state.
All right. Well, who's next?
I'll go next. I'm Haley Lewis. I'm the staff attorney for GASP, and ditto what Michael said. We love to work with Justin and our other Riverkeeper friends. And I actually had a baby in January, so the amazing Sarah Lauman, who will introduce herself next, did the lion's share of the attorney work behind the air permit comments, and she's just awesome. She'll tell you about herself, but she retired from EPA, and we are so glad to have her involved in this state.
All right, Sarah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Sarah Lauman. I live in Denver, Colorado, and as Haley said, left the federal government, left EPA a little over a year ago. I have been working on Clean Air Act permitting and lots of different Clean Air Act issues ever since 1990. One of the national experts in this area, and formed a solo law practice last year, where I am solely supporting in groups like GASP and others around the country, small groups and national groups, making sure that our Clean Air Act is being implemented the way it should be by the various states, and was really honored to jump in and help fill in a bit for Haley while she was out on maternity leave.
All right. Well, so who wants to kick us off on getting us an update on what all has been happening with the environmental issues that we've been dealing with this rendering plant?
Well, I feel like I have the least technical update. So if my friends at GASP don't mind, I'll jump in and talk about the river and sanitary sewer overflows, if that's okay with you all.
You got to talk about the poop first. Let's go for it.
I'm going to talk about the poop. Don't worry. So since we last sat down, which feels like an eternity ago, there's been some pretty significant updates to the SID permit. I made a whiteboard video that's on Coosa Riverkeeper's Facebook page that explains what an SID permit is. It's a state indirect discharge permit, and it is essentially what Pilgrim's Pride will need to pre-treat their waste on site and then send it through the municipal sewer system to Gadsden West for a final treatment before then being discharged into Neely Henry Lake. We were very fortunate to have the Center for Biological Diversity join Coosa Riverkeeper in writing a comment letter, which was a cover letter to a technical analysis of the Gadsden West self-reported data on A&M's website in conjunction with the use classifications, as well as the total maximum daily load of Neely Henry Lake, which is a very complicated way to say we had a really smart aquatic ecologist explain to A&M all the ways that they're failing us and failing our river and its use for whole body contact, fish and wildlife, public drinking water supply. So we were pleased for the short-term win when Gadsden Water admitted to A&M. A&M, we cannot deal with this waste right now. So right now, although GASP was going to go over the air permit update, even though they have an air permit, they do not have a place for their wastewater as of now. We have to continue keeping the pressure. So one of the things I want to ask of you, if you're watching this video and you live in the area surrounding Steel Station Road, is if you see a sanitary sewer overflow, and I'm going to call that an SSO from now on. If you see an SSO, I have a couple of things I need to ask you to do a favor for me, for Coosa Riverkeeper, and for this fight. First of all, I want to explain to you what it is. A sanitary sewer overflow is when there is a discharge of partially treated or untreated sewage it could be coming out of a manhole into a ditch. It could be on the ground. It could be a lift station for a sewer treatment, lift station that has failed or has electrical issues. So it can look a lot of different ways. And so many of you have already been so vigilant, in taking pictures and sending video. And I would love if y'all would continue doing that and sending any pictures or videos when you see sanitary sewer overflows happening. Now, they happen generally after major rain events, but we've seen recently it'll be sunny outside and there's still sewage overflowing in some communities. So if you see that or if you hear it, the best thing you can do is document it. Note the time, take pictures, take video, and when you do that, please don't talk in the videos. Please just give us a video that's completely silent. Of course, if you have traffic noises or whatever, please don't put yourself at risk. Please do not trespass in efforts to collect this documentation for Coosa Riverkeeper. We want you to stay safe and we need you in this fight. So please don't put yourself in harm's way. When you submit these videos to us, you can send them to info at coosariver.org. You can send them to us as a direct message on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. If you would rather submit these pictures anonymously, that's fine. But what we're trying to do is continue building a catalog of documenting where these sanitary sewer overflows are happening, because they're consistently happening in a handful of places, and the weather patterns are not consistent. Another thing that you can do, and that I hope everybody will do, is you can go to A&M's website and you can sign up for an SSO notification. So because I work in such a large swath of the watershed, I get lots of emails about where there's sewage entering our waterways or ditch or what have you. But you can sign up just for Etowah County. And that way, if you're out and about and you get an email that says there's an SSO happening at X, Y, or Z road, that's a way that you can help me, because you may be in that area, and go take a picture as it's happening. The best thing you can do is document this. And if you see one happening, you can also dial a number on A&M's website and report it, or you can report it to Coosa Riverkeeper and we'll do it for you. Because right now, with all of the rain that we've been experiencing, the number of SSOs that we've had have been significant, and the volume of discharge has been significant. But I think the most important thing is that we stay very aware of what this means for public health. When sewage enters our waterways, especially as the weather is getting warm, and I'm sure many of you are itching to get out and get in the water and maybe catch some fish, we need to ensure that we're telling one another where these SSOs are happening, because you may be unknowingly making contact with water that has sewage in it. So with that being said, I'm happy to answer any questions, Michael, but I just wanted to give everybody a quick update and give them that action in ways they can help, because y'all have been so incredible in just giving of your time and looking for ways to volunteer and support. So that's what Coosa Riverkeeper needs right now.
Okay, so and let's stick on the water for just a second, then we'll jump on the air, or jump into the air, whatever the appropriate way to say that is. So where are we at on the water board being willing to take on more water from Pilgrim's Pride or I guess really anybody else? I mean, it sounds like they're pretty much running at max or above max capacity at this point here in our lovely city.
Yeah, so my understanding is that Gadsden Water is soliciting funding to help make some significant improvements and upgrades to the area surrounding the rendering plant's potential location. And that will come in multiple phases. So it will be very interesting. And based on some things that Christy shared in the opposition group today, there were several things that I noted. The mention of the council in the email correspondence that Christy shared, I think, is notable and important. In addition to that, I think the phases of these upgrades is going to take time. And it will be really interesting to see how many SSOs will take place in this application period through ADECA. And I hope that we are able to continue to apply pressure and ask whether, they're rhetorical questions or not. I mean, are these upgrades, do they change the fact that they have had a number of sanitary sewer overflows? And why are they using this corporation coming to Etowah County to fix a problem that they've known about, that they've received warning letters from ADEM about? Why is Pilgrim's Pride going to come in and fix this for Gadsden? I feel strongly that that's just something that we don't need Pilgrim's Pride to come in and fix a problem, because I can guarantee they're going to be creating a lot bigger problems when it comes to water quality if they come to Etowah County.
All right, we got one real quick question. I'll bring this up here. Reba, when doing a video, what is the best way to note the area or site if not close to a street sign?
Hey, Reba, I hope you're doing well. The best way to do that, honestly, is when you send me the video to drop a Latin long or give me an intersection of where you are on a street corner. A lot of my phone is geo location tagging on the pictures that I take, so that might be a feature on your phone that's available. But the reason that I just don't want people to talk is because if I upload this or submit this to ADEM, and I just want to keep your privacy, is important.
Gotcha.
I hope that answers your question, Reba.
Yep. Well, hey, and Reba has been killing it on getting more into the technology, so there's no telling. She's going to have a better setup than I do by the time she gets done. So.
I do want to point out, too, steer people to the opposition page. Just as Justin was discussing, I did upload several of the documents that ADECA, my open records request to them. They're part of what was this sort of grant funding request that the Water Board sought after beginning in around September of last year. So that shows that Pilgrim's Pride had committed at that point in time, and Gadsden Water Works was seeking some grant funding in order to upgrade the sewer so that Pilgrim's Pride could locate here. And so the documents I uploaded show sort of a narrative that the Gadsden Water Board submitted to ADECA in support of its grant request. And I think it's interesting to see what the Water Board's narrative for that. So look at that. And it also, I think one of the gentlemen on the Facebook page made a really good point. I think it was Bart Copeland, about the fact that, well, do we need to do anything? Because this grant that had been that Gadsden Water had asked for, but also in the records which I uploaded is a email where at this point Gadsden Water sort of suspended its ARC grant application. So like with the suspension of the letter agreeing to take Pilgrim's Pride discharge, they have temporarily, it appears, suspended the ARC grant. So that's been sort of stopped at this point, but the implication was that it's not over that they have held off. So DECA is not considering it as far as I know at this point in time. But it is a very interesting set of paperwork that shows sort of what Gadsden Water, the city, others were involved in as it relates to getting them here, getting the rendering plant here, and what that timeline was. So check out the documents I uploaded on the opposition page if you haven't already seen that.
All right.
Christy, one thing I noticed, sorry, Michael. One thing I noticed was the date on that email correspondence and how that correlated with the SID permit application to ADEM. The timing of those things was very interesting.
It was almost exact to the day that when they applied and received the ARC grant, or that they were allowed to proceed with it, is when they notified ADEM, hey, we're willing to accept Pilgrim's Pride's discharge. So those dates, there was it appears to be a coordinated effort on the behalf of Gadsden Water, Pilgrim's Pride, in order to get that ADEM SID permit as soon as they've got notification about the ARC grant.
Maybe they're just a very efficient government entity.
Well, and that's interesting because those are the records that I don't have. The communications between Pilgrim's Pride and the Water Board. I know.
There is no such thing as an efficient government organization.
Right? Exactly. But those are what we don't have, is that missing piece.
And I can say that as a 20-year employee of the DoD. So, okay, guys. Well, let's kick into the air because I feel like we've got two people on the screen that have been talking a lot. So let's jump into the air stuff, which is what everybody came for. So my understanding is we got air permits approved. So what now? Who wants to answer?
I'm gonna let GASP.
I'll just answer your question about what now, kind of simply. So once air permits are issued, like you mentioned, this is what's called a construction permit. And your first avenue to deal with that construction permit is to administratively challenge the permit within the agency, which is the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, ADEM. So on March 29th, Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, we filed a request for hearing with ADEM, which is the first step in challenging the permit. It was received and ADEM has responded. And what that looks like is it's kind of similar to being in court. It's very formal in that way. But instead of being in court, you're before the governing body of ADEM, which is known as the Environmental Management Commission, or the EMC. And a hearing officer, who's typically a retired judge, is assigned to the matter. And kind of the parties all argue their case in front of the hearing officer first, and then he then makes a recommendation to the EMC.
All right. Well, so what is our hope moving forward? Are we is the air permit gonna get rescinded? What's that process look like?
Our prayer for relief and the request for hearing is to revoke the air permit. And I think Sarah could better speak to the specific issues with the permit. She could go super deep into those issues, but I think she'll just outline them.
Okay. Well, Sarah, and I would tell you in 6 months, I've learned not to be scared to go super deep. Those that don't want to listen will fast forward. Or we've got a lot that prefer to go super deep and learn and understand. So don't be afraid. Definitely like to understand that. I know some of the stuff we've learned thus far from Justin in this whole process is the expectation management of while we may put up a big fight, what's the real likelihood that obviously the permits got through, and I'd say we put up a pretty considerable fight from what I've taken from Justin. So that's, I guess, two parts. Let's go deeper, and then what is the expectation management on getting this thing rescinded?
Well, as I said when I introduced myself, I've been doing this work since 1990, and I am really shocked and appalled at what's going on in Alabama. I, I'm just, I can't believe how bad ADEM is at collecting the information they need for the permit, looking over what they have, not asking for additional information, and then from what I can tell, just whatever the company asks for, they just get out a rubber stamp and say, okay, go ahead and construct. I mean, it's it's an awful situation in the state. And it's Pilgrim's Pride, but from the permits that I have been looking at while Haley was out with her newborn son, and helping Haley and Michael before that, because I've been helping her for over a year now. It's across the board in the state, and it's really got to come to an end. The state needs to step up and do the job that the rest of the states across this country are doing. Now, I have listened to a number of the city council meetings. I haven't listened to anywhere near as many as Christy and Justin have, and no doubt others, all the rest of you that have been fighting this. But the representations that the company has made to the city council are just totally inaccurate and inconsistent with what they put in their permit application. They made representations to the council that, like for example, the odors and all the hazardous air pollutants would be controlled through a very sophisticated device. Well, when you file an application and to ADEM, you need to tell them what that piece of equipment is. What brand and model are you going to purchase and install as part of your construction, so that ADEM can review and say, yes, it's of the right size, it's of the right design, and it's going to do just the sort of job that you Pilgrim's Pride plan to use it for. And they didn't provide that information, nor is it in their permit. So who knows what they're going to install? Nobody knows. And it's just sort of, it's like this trust the company, and that's just not how permitting works. That's one of many examples. The other huge issue with the permit is there are different types of permits that can be issued by a permitting agency. If your emissions are lower, you get a less stringent permit. That if you have, emissions that are going into the air that are really high, above a significant level. And if you're somewhere in between, you can say, well, I'll artificially limit my emissions, and I'll accept a permit to do that. And if you accept that kind of permit, you have to have monitoring in place. You have to report what your emissions are, and you have to limit your emissions. And the type of permit that ADEM issued does not have the right type of permit terms to allow Pilgrim's Pride to escape the major source permitting requirements. And so that's a big issue. The other issue, just to highlight, is when a source comes in and says, I want a permit, they need to provide they need to provide data and information about the types of emissions that they will emit, so that those impacted in the community know what the emissions are going to be like. And under state law, Alabama state law, there's a provision that says that all that emissions information cannot be held confidential. So the state has no way, the state is not supposed to protect the information on what type of emissions will be emitted by the plant. And that makes sense. I mean, those of you that live in the community have a right to know what emissions are going to be coming out of that plant. Well, when they submitted the application, Pilgrim's Pride stamped big confidential on it. And those of us reviewing the permit, and everybody else in the public has no idea what those emissions are going to be. And that's just that is just contrary to what Alabama state law provides. And I think, either through this challenge that GASP has filed on behalf of its members in Etowah County, and through other legal actions that we are exploring, that this permit will be revoked. I mean, I can't say that with 100% confidence, of course, but the permit, it just has so many flaws in it that it's just amazing to me that ADEM even thought that they could issue these with a straight face.
Well, so Michael, I'll throw this one at you. And what can we do? We've got a few questions jumping in here, but what can we do as citizens, those watching? What can we do to help this whole process? Anything? Do we need to just sit back and trust the system?
Funny. No, don't do that. Y'all have been doing a great job from what I've seen, engaging in the process with the council, county commission. So keep contacting those people. Contact your local representative and state senator. All of that is very, very important as part of the bigger picture of all of this. And then also continue to support Coosa Riverkeeper with your membership and your videos and photos and all of that. And I would say do the same with GASP. We don't have a facility to report air pollution from yet, but we want to make sure that if that's the case, that we're prepared. And even if that's not the case, in order to fight these kinds of things, we have to do so on behalf of our members. So join GASP as a member. That's a really important step, because where our members tell us to go, that's where we'll be. And so I would just really emphasize that contacting your local representatives piece, though. That's really key.
Okay. I did see one question that was pretty interesting. Wesley Jordan asked, approximately how much did the company likely invest in getting these environmental permits?
Good question.
That's a great. Go ahead, Michael. I have a response, but when you guys want to start?
I was just doing air quotes around invest. I'm taking that as sort of sarcastic, but go ahead, Sarah.
So they have to, they pay fees to ADEM for them. I don't know, Haley, what is it? A couple $1,000?
If that.
To apply to actually file a permit. But the striking contrast to me is looking at what Alabama, requires, and what this company, Pilgrim's Pride, which is a subdivision of JBS USA, what they do across the country. So if you look at a permit that was filed in Iowa or Texas, a permit application that was filed by this company, they will go out and hire a well-known consulting firm that has top-notch engineers that will complete the application with all the information that's necessary. What was done here for this permit was they had somebody in-house from the corporate headquarters put together the permit and filed it with ADEM. Now, they didn't include all the right information. A lot of information, a lot of the lines were just blank. There wasn't anything there. And they used the wrong set of forms. I mean, there's a set of forms that you use when you want to construct a facility, which is what they should have been doing. Then there's another set of forms that you use once the facility's already up and running. Well, the facility isn't up and running. They don't even know where they're going to build it at this point. They don't even own the land. And so they put together, you ask how much they expended in-house. I don't know. They expended in-house some a few people's time to put together the application and did a job that was not passing in any sense of the word. I mean, not that there's a passing grade, but it's really a half, pardon my French, a half-assed effort. And I think they thought they could get away with it because that's how business is done in Alabama for the most part.
So,
Thank goodness for the Christies and the Justins of the world who caught this from the water side and pulled in their friends at GASP and say, hey, we've got water issues, but we've also got air issues. Can you help us out? So it's this great, multimedia approach that's going on across the environmental groups in Alabama that are helping each other. Because as those of you know that have been following this much better than they're going to take the chicken parts, they're going to cook them, down at the extreme temperatures to make pet food and other products. And then the wastewater from the cooking that's coming out of the cookers, these big, huge pots, as well as the steam that's going up, that the evaporation that gets collected is going into a big bunch of holding ponds that Pilgrim's Pride manages, and Pilgrim's Pride will be treating. And then, that goes to the city's wastewater and ultimately to the river and to the lake that you all enjoy so much. So it's not a good situation. Just one more contrast, and then I'll stop talking, and that is the other permits for similar chicken rendering plants across the country, where Pilgrim's Pride themselves or other competitors of Pilgrim's Pride have air permits. Not only are the air emissions from the plant part of the permit, but the wastewater where Pilgrim's Pride is treating the water that comes from the plant, that is also part of the air permit. And it should be, because there are air pollutants coming out of those ponds. And Alabama, ADEM, and all their wisdom, even though we commented and said they needed to include the emissions from the wastewater treatment ponds that are going to be on Pilgrim's Pride's property, even though we told them it was missing from the permit, we explained why they needed to include it. We gave them examples of permits from other states that they could have just followed and asked Pilgrim's Pride for the information. Did they include those ponds in the air permit? No, they did not. So that is going to be one of the issues that we are appealing. They have not included all the air emissions.
So I'm curious if there's another contrast, because I know this has been a pretty big piece of discussion with all of this, is the whole applying for permits when you don't own land. Is that the way it works in other states? Have you seen that elsewhere?
No, and sadly, I was when I looked at the air permit application, they had an address on there. I just assumed, they own the property. I mean, you can't get a permit to construct something unless you own the property. I mean, that's just common sense. If I wanted to build a house down in Etowah County, and my husband and I would spend time down there part of the year, or maybe we would relocate and live there. I can't get a permit to construct unless I own the property. And the company, in my eyes, misrepresented to ADEM that they owned the property, because when they filled out the forms, they said, here's the property, and they included the address, and they signed the forms, we're the owner and operator of this plant and of this property. So I've never seen it in my practice, never.
So Christy, this property transfer is kind of in your wheelhouse, and is that anything to add with that discussion? Is that?
Yeah, and we've brought that issue up numerous occasions about how they're applying for these permits and proceeding with this, while simultaneously, claiming that they don't have an ownership interest yet, but they're saying they do have an ownership interest. The city's saying that they don't, whereas Pilgrim's Pride is clearly moving ahead as if it is. And so, it just begs the question, what's the missing piece that we're not being told? What's being held back? Why would Pilgrim's Pride proceed and act as if they're the owner, submit applications representing that they are the owner, and spending money and time while the city and the airport authority simultaneously claim that they don't? And I actually sent to ADEM the recording that Jonathan did of the airport authority meeting, in which they just went on and on about we haven't been approached, we have no information about them, they haven't asked us anything. So I actually sent the link to ADEM's attorney saying, how can you grant a permit when the airport authority who owns the land says they have no interest whatsoever in it? I got no response back. So these are issues that both Sarah has raised, and guys, in her objections to the ADEM permit and also the request for hearing, it's like a 100-page document where Sarah outlines all of this and goes in depth with a skill set I don't have. It's unbelievable, but she also brings that up, that how are you applying for these permits when the owner and the city say you supposedly don't have any ownership interest.
All right.
I mean, the other thing that's just a very odd mismatch is that how can ADEM grant an air permit on the one hand, but now the water permit is on hold? And it's the same company. Like, how can ADEM say it's okay to build the plant, have air emissions, use water, put the water in your ponds, and ADEM has said in the 2 permits they've issued, that's all totally fine. But now they're saying the water permit is on hold because there are reasons that well, you all know the city water now doesn't have the capacity to take the water. So really, what ADEM should have done is put both permits on hold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let me interrupt real quick, because Michael, I think you've got something you've got to run off to. Is that right?
Yeah, I need to scram, but I've really enjoyed this conversation, and
if you got any last words to throw in there, and I will definitely say thank you so much for your time, and not just here tonight, but all the efforts from GASP. So,
well, I want to say for sure thank you to Justin for looping us in, and all the hard work that Coosa Riverkeeper does, and thank you to Sarah for being so amazing and skilled at what you do. I saw that, Christopher, you asked to find gas, and I think maybe it's just mishearing what I'm saying. It's GASP, GASP, Greater Birmingham Alliance to Stop Pollution. You can check us out on Facebook or at our website at gaspgroup.org.
and I'll go back in when we're done and get everything linked up in the description on this video. So we've got links to everybody.
Yeah, I'll go and upload Sarah's hearing request too. If I haven't already done, I need to check it on that. That's pretty awesome for those that like to drill down into.
If you want large documents uploaded to the internet, that's your girl right there.
Right. I like to read. That's right. I'm your one. But it's amazing, and Sarah goes into detail on all this, so people can read that, pull it up.
Well, again, Michael, thank you so much. We'll let you get out of here, and we'll kind of keep the conversation flowing, and we'll try and dive into some questions here in just a minute. So, thank you, sir.
Bye, Michael.
I also want to note too that Advanced Etowah and Choice Fabricators have filed motions to intervene to join in with GASP's requests for hearing and appeal on the air permit for a bit. I think that Phil Williams is, is the attorney that's working on the zoning case, and he's got some parties that have intervened. So he may have some people to add in as well. It's not one of those cases where we need, hundreds of people to come in and intervene. Just enough to show the hearing officer that there are local people that live right down the street that are intervening in this action, and so we've got any support that we can give, GASP with the amazing work that they're doing here from a local point of view. We're doing that as well. Just so appreciative for all of GASP and Sarah's hard work.
Well, so I've got a question here, or a comment, I should say, is Sarah, please don't stop talking. We love hearing this information.
Patricia, you're too kind.
So it, like I said just a few minutes ago, folks want to dive into this. They want to understand the right way. That's been certainly, I'll say, somewhat of an odd thing. But a cool thing through all of this is the desire for everybody to go, there's a lot I don't know that I probably should understand more about these processes, because community doesn't just run on magic. There's hard work, there's processes, and so we're happy to learn whatever it is that you want to share with us.
So maybe just a few other points that I know I've seen a lot on your Facebook group, and I was just pretty overwhelmed when I first joined to see at that point, I think it was 8,000. Now it's over 9,000. I don't know if you're at 10,000 at this point, but there's so many of you on that, and so many people engaged. It's a unique opportunity for me to be involved and feel like I'm connecting at least as directly as I feel like I do via that page. But anyway, one of the things I see a lot on that page are these trucks that are operating around Etowah County and the other counties that are hauling the chicken parts now, and the chicken parts are flying off in the road and making a mess. And so one of the things that I looked at when I was examining the permit was, well, what kind of requirements is ADEM going to be putting in the permits for enclosed trucks, for unloading trucks as they come to the facility, and then also once all the chicken parts are processed and loaded into other trucks and taken off site, what sort of requirements does the permit have? And here's yet another example of where the company says, don't worry, the trucks are going to be great. They're going to be covered or enclosed. You look at the permit, and there are no requirements at all in the permit that the trucks will be enclosed or covered in any way. And in contrast, you look at permits in other parts of the country where citizen groups have been very active and concerned about chickens and other types of rendering. For example, the California area, Southern California, and there are specific requirements in the permits that the trucks be enclosed and covered. So there are ways, and there are other permits around the country as well. That's just one example for you. The other thing is that the company has explained that, and this is before the city council meetings, that the trucks will be unloaded in what they have what makes it sound like will be closed bays. So they'll drive there, and when I hear closed bays, I think, well, the truck's going to drive in. There's going to be some sort of door that's going to come down or slide across, and the truck will be unloaded, hopefully cleaned, or maybe unloaded and then driven somewhere else on site to be cleaned. But it'll be unloaded within this closed bay. and you look at the permit, you look at the permit application. The permit application says, well, the bays will have 3 sides, but there's nothing in the permit application that says there'll be a 4th side of these bays that will be closed. So the company, at least from the application, never explained that there would be closed bays, and the permit application is absolutely, or the permit itself, the permit that ADEM issued, has nothing in it at all about the unloading bays. So there's no requirement for what kind of space, whether it has 3 sides, 4 sides, open or closed. There's no requirement for what happens when the trucks are unloaded. Similarly, once the chickens are processed or chicken parts are processed and cooked, and they've got this meal that's dumped into other trucks that then will pull up into another set of bays, or maybe the same bays. I don't know. We don't know. There's not enough detail in the application to know how the plant is set up. But the trucks then will take the processed parts off-site, and there's no details about unloading or loading, and how those bays will work. So why does this all matter, and why should you all care? Well, people who are raising this, no doubt, read what's happening in other communities, and that's where a lot of the smells and the odors come from. Is from both of the unloading and loading in these bays, and it's important to make sure that those bays are closed, and that there's what's called negative air pressure. So it's pressure, the air system, the HVAC system, sort of sucks the air into the building so that the odors don't leave the building. And this is yet another example of where Pilgrim's Pride has said, well, the whole building is going to operate under negative air pressure, so don't worry about odors or other vapors leaving the facility, because it's all operating under negative air pressure. Well, that may be their plan, to operate under negative air pressure, but there was nothing in the permit application, and there was nothing in the final permit that requires them to operate under negative pressure. So open bays, closed bays, who knows what they'll end up constructing, but we don't know, and we don't know about the negative air pressure as well. So that's an issue that we'll be looking at for the appeal. The other thing, just to explain, is that I know a lot of concern is about the odors from these plants, and that's it's very well placed. There are odors from the chicken parts. There's odors from the chicken processing. They say they're going to have this fancy incinerator on top of the building or in the building to destroy all these what they're calling bad odors. And what you all, I'm sure, can appreciate is it's not only that these emissions that are being released from the plant or that need to be treated before they're released, it's not only that they're bad odors, but they contain hazardous air pollutants. They contain air toxics. And that's a nature of this process, a nature of what they're cooking. And those hazardous air pollutants, those air toxics, can cause cancer. They can aggravate asthma. I mean, it's not good to breathe those air toxics, those hazardous air pollutants, which is why they need this incinerator to make sure that those toxic air pollutants are destroyed before they're released into the community. And as I said at the beginning, we don't know really we have no idea what kind of incinerator they're going to be installing. We don't know if it's going to really provide the type of destruction of these air pollutants that they say that's going to be possible, because they haven't given us the specifics of the device that they plan to install. So not to be alarming, but it is alarming.
So
basically it is alarming.
with that in mind, because we keep hearing, we've heard a lot about NDAs, and protecting, so your experience would say that we at this point should know what piece of equipment they're actually planning on installing. That is not something that they should be keeping secret because of some proprietary reason or anything like that.
No, I mean, you should know the manufacturer, you should know the size of it, you should know the model number, so that when they buy it, the ADEM inspector, when the ADEM inspector goes into the plant to know, to verify that they have installed an incinerator of a certain type that will be adequate to destroy these pollutants, and it's the right type, it is the right size,
Mm-hmm.
and it's the model number that they said, that the inspector can look at and say, yeah, you bought what you said you were, and everything's good.
Okay.
And that's the standard around the country.
Mm-hmm.
How air pollution and how permits are issued in this country.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna to shift gears just a hair, and I saw some questions about enforcement and all that kind of stuff, and one thing that occurs to me, since we have the unique advantage of having someone that actually has some pretty long EPA experience, I think it's natural for folks to ask the question, well, so we're talking ADEM and state level stuff. What can we call on anyone at the federal government? Can we call the EPA? Can we get, is there any federal action that can be taken to help out here?
Yeah, that's it's almost as if I fed you that softball question. I didn't, but thank you very much. Yeah, so you're right. I worked for EPA, worked for the federal government for 23 years. Before that, I worked for Colorado and Oregon, Maine, and Wisconsin. So I've been around this country. And before that, I was with a nonprofit group. So my career has been dedicated entirely to public service and air quality.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's been a great career, and I'm happy to continue it in a part-time way here, and in the next phase of my life, it's a little bit of retirement, but also a little bit of giving back to groups like GASP and Coosa River. But anyway, yeah, there is a way to get EPA involved. EPA is set up, and they have 10 regional offices around the country. Your all's regional office is based in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a group there that should be looking at these permits and providing comments to the state. The state should be responding and revising their permits. From what I can see, they, just like they ignore the comments from GASP, they ignore the comments from EPA. And GASP, 2 weeks ago, filed a couple of petitions with EPA's administrator in DC on other permits that had been issued, and said ADEM has issued these permits. They should not have, because they have the following mistakes, and EPA, you need to step in and make sure the state corrects them. There are other types of oversight actions that EPA can do. They can come down and they can do inspections. They can say, the state, you aren't implementing the program the way you should, and EPA can say, we're going to take it back until you step up and do it the way Congress intended. So there are a variety of actions that EPA can take. And I know GASP and Haley and Michael are looking at those various options, sort of at a strategically, to see how they want to move forward. And I've been helping them, from my experience and my perspective. And I don't plan to go away anytime soon.
Well, we appreciate that. Well, so I'm gonna. I know Justin is probably feeling a little unusual in that she's not doing all that much talking.
I'm not complaining about that. That's okay. But I do want to say one pretty profound or maybe profound statement about ADEM and just provide some context as to, kind of where we stand and what our expectations should be. ADEM is our state regulator, and I hate to say this, but I'm not surprised that they okayed this air permit. They are beholden to the polluter, not to us, the people. So I think we have to remind ourselves that continuing to attend these council meetings and going to the water board and the airport authority is such an important part of applying pressure and informing people that ADEM is not listening to the hundreds of you that came to that air permit hearing, to the dozen of us that spoke, many of them being elected officials, to Sarah's comments that were both technical and expert level analysis of the way that these permits are leaving us, the citizens of the Coosa Valley and folks who live and reside within the direct area. We're left asking the questions. And like I said, from the very beginning at that high school auditorium, ADEM lets these industries grade their own papers. They let them self-report. They let them make these permits. And they're not looking out for us. And so we have to continue this fight, whether it be through air or through water, and also through biosolid application. If this facility gets constructed, they're going to be spreading solid waste from this facility across fields in multiple counties. So we're super fortunate to have Sarah's expertise and continue pushing this knowledge forward. So thank you so much.
Yeah, we had the question about waste sludge.
Oh gosh. Yes, they generate waste sludge. And the permits associated with the disposal of the waste sludge are a very legal gray area from a regulatory perspective. We could have a whole other Facebook Live, and that might actually be a good thing to talk about biosolid application.
We've talked about some sludge quite a bit. I mean, certainly more than I've ever talked about sludge in my life in the last 6 months.
Gosh.
But
what that ends up doing, and they can speak a lot more than I can, but it appears to what that does is it sort of invites these bad actors, these industries who don't want to be held to the more stringent rules other states have, to come here. ADM's not going. You can, like Justin so great said in a great way, they grade their own paper, so it attracts those industries, and so now we've got let into our county this industry that thinks, well, hey, this is great. I don't even have to even get a professionally prepared permit for ADEM. We got a county who's saying you can come on it. I mean, it's like Candyland, and we, the citizens are left with the pollution that is the result of that, and and ADEM, we've got to fight that on a local level. Our neighbors on the council, at the city, at the water board, at the airport authority, they live here too, and this is our home, and we've got to fight that here because only the local people are going to stop it. And unfortunately,
the other thing I did, just to follow up a bit on what Justin said about you all turning out, sending written comments to ADEM on these permits, turning up at the hearing and speaking. So the way the process is set up is they put these permits out for public notice. They take comments on them, and then they're supposed to respond to comments. ADEM is supposed to read the different comments, listen to what was said during the hearing. You probably saw there was a court reporter there taking the transcript down, and ADEM is supposed to go through there and respond to all the comments, and they didn't. I mean, not only is it illegal for them to go forward and not consider what you all had to say, but it's plain disrespectful. I mean, that is not how we treat one another in this country.
Yeah.
I don't think. I mean, I lived in the South. People are we lived, when I was growing up, we lived in North Carolina for a while, and people are very respectful of one another, and I'm sure it's the same in Alabama. And for you all to spend the time going to a hearing, saying what your concerns are, or putting your concerns in writing and sending it to a state agency, and a state agency just to not even look at those or consider
Right.
them. I mean, that's just,
Yeah.
I mean, not only is it illegal, it's disrespectful and rude.
Yeah.
You guys
Well,
matter just like
absolutely.
the
Maybe
country matters. You matter
maybe we
more
need
because you
to
live
maybe we need to find their grandmoms to come slap them upside the head. Well,
Yeah.
let me shift gears here real quick because we got a question from Jonathan McCormick that I think flips to, let's talk about, is there any positive examples? And he said a bit off topic, but has GASP been able to coordinate with any local forward-thinking companies who are working to improve? Do you have any success stories that can be shared?
Haley, are you on?
I think
No,
we've lost.
Haley dropped off, and I don't really feel like I can speak to that necessarily. But Jonathan, I can absolutely connect you with GASP and Sarah and Haley and Michael to answer that question for you.
All right. Well, Sarah, have you got any examples that you've seen in your 20 plus years of doing this of
Yeah, I
what
mean,
you would consider a good?
there are definitely companies. I mean, I think in this case, the local Jonathan, it's nice to have your comment and have a chance to connect with you. Although I can't see or hear you, to see your question was nice to see.
Well, normally he'd be on one of these lives with us, but he's down actually doing work for what he needs to do. So, but go ahead.
When I come there and visit, as soon as this pandemic is over, I definitely want to see his business. I'm just in awe of the beautiful job that he and his crew do. But yeah, so examples, there are, the situation that you all are facing is you're trying to fight and stop this plant. So the type of success stories that in my thinking of, that come to mind are not the kind that you're in your situation, but where GASP has been able to work with companies and get companies to agree to put on and do additional air monitoring, for example, around the facility. They have done that with a facility in North Birmingham, entered into a settlement agreement actually where the company is going to pay to monitor the air toxics and the hazardous air pollutants coming out of the facility and entering into the neighborhood. So that's an example. And there are examples like that where companies will come forward and work with the community and listen to what the community concerns are and put in monitoring or put in additional types of reporting requirements, and just be very transparent about their operation, very transparent and very honest, and open their air books, if you will, and let the public know what the operation is about, how what are the details on how they want to control the air emissions, and listen to the public's concerns and do something about it. Like the examples that I provided in California, where now the rendering plants they're taking the animal parts, those trucks that are delivering and taking the parts away in the cooked animal feed meal, those trucks will all be covered and enclosed, and there's going to be more stationary source monitoring locations set up in a couple of communities to continuously monitor the air pollution so that those who live there have a better understanding of the air toxics that are being emitted and in their ambient air and in the neighborhoods. And that has come about through conversations between the companies, the regulators, and then the communities, but where the companies have been more open to having dialogues with the community. This particular company does give a lot of money to the neighborhood organizations in the way of grants and scholarships and that sort of thing. But from what I can tell, they don't have that kind of dialogue about actual air or water pollution that they're causing. They try to more,
Yeah.
hand
Gotcha.
out grants or free turkeys or whatever.
Yeah, they seem to build a water park so you can go spend more time out in the toxic environment that they're producing. So, sorry, that's a dig. Well, Justin, I understand you've got to get out of here, and I don't know. We can go through. Sarah, if you want to hang out for just a couple more minutes and see if we've got any other specific questions that definitely lean on your expertise for. But Justin, thank you so much for
Yeah,
staying.
thank y'all for having me. Absolutely. I'm so happy that y'all got an opportunity to hear from Sarah. She has been a huge sounding board for Coosa Riverkeeper. So again, thank you, Sarah. If y'all have any other questions about sanitary sewer overflows, what that means, what they look like, and how you can help Coosa Riverkeeper, please just shoot us a direct message on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, or email info@coosariver.org. I hope y'all have a wonderful evening.
All right. Well, thank you, and
All right.
y'all be sure
Good night, y'all.
to go back go back and listen. We started this, if you missed it, started off with a great discussion on how to take videos of poop overflows. So trying to figure out how many times I can say poop in Facebook Live. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to try and dig through the questions. Christy, if you've got anything, questions, comments, things that might be interesting while I dig through and read through. As one might say, talk amongst yourselves.
Well, so I do want everybody to just kind of stay informed as the week unfolds. We've got several other things we need to update everybody on. I think that the Sarah is just amazing the way she's been able to kind of drill down on what both the deficiencies in the permit application that Pilgrim's Pride filed, but also the permit ADM gave to them, in the absence of sort of any protections or any assurances or any contractual legal obligations that they would have. It's just they say all of these things, but there's really no legal requirement that they do any of it. And then when you look at the level of sort of non-transparency that we've seen from both the documents that have been submitted to ADM, the interactions with the city, how they got here, it just really lends itself to questions about how much we can trust and rely on whatever representations are made. If it's so great, if there's all these great things, then why aren't you bragging and transparent about those? Why has this all kind of been hidden in the dark for months and months before it came here? So, and I think everything that both we're dealing with, but that Sarah's dealing with on this environmental, lends itself to asking how much are we supposed to trust both Pilgrim's Pride or ADM with such a serious. I mean, we're not talking about minor things. We're talking about our water. We're talking about our air. Not following through on those and not having a enforcement that ADM should bring, just exposes us to an immense amount of risk to our water and our air, and it's too important for us to not continue to fight. I'm very happy with Sarah and her amazing expertise at the EPA level, and and very encouraged by her words about the lack of appropriateness of the permit, and hopefully that this appeal, every time you're appealing before the administrative body that's ADM itself, so it's not really a sort of independent. And Sarah can maybe speak more about that. It's sort of the administrative hearing procedure through ADM, unlike a court case, for example, in the zoning and the open records case where you have a outside member of the court system, the judge. It's more of an administrative appeal through ADM. But there's a hearing officer. There is a group of people that the arguments are made to, and I'll post what Sarah's filed. It's a very persuasive argument that hopefully all of us will be able to prevail on and be able to get those permits revoked as we continue to work the local answers here, which is really what we said from the beginning, that this problem is going to be solved locally. We want ADM to revoke this permit. We want the legislature to pass our bills. We want Montgomery to come in and to protect us and do its job. But ultimately, we got to look to ourselves here in order to kind of be the masters of our own ship. We certainly hope that the state will come in and help us as well. Sarah, anything else I know you're just amazing. Thank you so much. I cannot express the gratitude. I was so excited tonight for you guys to see this team and to hear from Sarah and all the amazing stuff. She follows the Facebook page, guys. She probably knows all of you just as well as me, and she'll email all the time about what you said and a point that you brought up. So she follows what we're saying on the Facebook page, and so I feel like she's one of us. I can't wait till she comes down here so we can give her a big hometown welcome, because I think she should be in the South. I really do.
Yeah, I just to launch on that, Christy, a lot of the arguments and the points that you heard me make tonight and share with you are things that I learned from the Facebook page, things I went digging for. I mean, you all were concerned about the trucks. You were concerned about odors. I mean, before December, I knew nothing about rendering plants. I knew nothing about chicken parts. I think I'm probably one of the national experts in the area for all the work that I've done on Pilgrim's Pride here in Alabama. And then I've also been helping a national group on you think chicken parts are bad. The same company has a beef rendering plant about an hour from me here in Denver. And I drafted comments on that permit that the state of Colorado put together, which was, I don't know, hard to compare the two, but equally as bad as ADEM. Maybe not as bad as ADEM's, but definitely up there. So yeah, it's the Facebook page. There's a lot of great information that I learned about and folks that I've connected with that I never would have connected with in my life, and I appreciate those opportunities and those friendships. We're going to do the best we can with this appeal. ADEM thus far has ignored the legal requirements, and they should have information in the record to support what they've done. And that information is just not there. So we'll see how it goes. And yeah, there are a number of opportunities to challenge and to make sure that ADEM is honest and does what they need to do. And we're taking it one day at a time. I'm so happy, Christy, that you were able to get some folks to intervene and support these efforts, because that's going to speak volumes. Definitely speak volumes.
Well, so I'm going to bring up one quick question that's very general. Do you think the protests at City Hall made a difference? Have they made a difference specific to the ADEM process?
At City Hall, or
at City Hall is the question from. So I mean, and I guess let's take that to more general, the people being involved.
It's the biggest weapon we have. This group you know, when we defeat this, the lawyers, we're working all the angles we can, but ultimately it's the power of this group. It's the power of the voice of people who love their home, who live here and fight for it, that give us the any power we wield, any strength that we have is because of the strength of the people who are behind us. And that's why I thank everybody so often, every time, because it's because of you that when we win, that we're going to, that we will. So this isn't an issue that is such a big it's such a locomotive that had gained so much steam,
Right.
that stopping it and turning it around was something that was going to require a large group of people.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I mean that definitely played a role in ADEM in the first hearing that we got to have.
Yeah. Without the group, we wouldn't even had an ADEM hearing.
That had just rubber stamped the permits and off we go.
That's right.
All right.
It all matters, no matter what somebody can do to help, whether you submit comments, whether you were at the hearing, as Michael from GASP, the director, said, if you can call your elected representatives at the State House, at the Capitol, and tell them, you're worried that ADEM isn't doing the job they should be. Go up and at City Hall, and that gets covered in the news, and somebody watches the news and says, "Oh, what's going on in Gadsden? This isn't good." Who knows who's going to see that news coverage?
Gotcha.
It takes everybody giving what they can. I mean, it's not the three of us here on camera tonight. I mean, if I were doing this by myself, there's no way I would win. It takes everybody. I mean, I wouldn't have all the facts and all the details if it weren't for you all posting on the Facebook page. You all educated me and helped me submit the 60-page letter that I did. So I thank you.
Well, I think that's a good note to end on. And Sarah, again, thank you so much, obviously, for all that you're doing. Thank you for taking the time tonight, or what are you early evening, about time for dinner there in Colorado. But we look forward to having you down here one day and reading through all of the wonderful documentation that I'm sure Christy can't wait to get on the internet. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for tuning in, asking some good questions. And I guess we'll catch you in the next one. Hang in there, keep talking in the group, and we'll see you. I don't know what we've got next. We're still not sure.
We're not sure. We're going to have to get some updates in the next couple of days, though. We've had several things happen, so whether it's you and me, or just me, or somebody else, or something, there's always stuff happens. So we'll be giving some updates. We had a little quiet time for a while, but we got to get back to work.
All right. Well, guys, y'all have a good night, and we will talk to you later. Sarah, thank you so much.
You're welcome. It's my honor and pleasure to be here. I've been watching you, so it's nice to be part of it. Night.
All right.